Buddy, welcome to week 15 power rankings. Now that every team has officially played the same amount of games, we can finally do the real power ranking. This has been a tough one. By the numbers, the order is going to be not quite what I'm going to pick, but there's always X factors and strength of schedule that accounts for who's going where. So we're going to start from bottom to top with the worst teams all the way up to the best teams. Starting with Tier S, Super Bowl contention. Tier A, deep playoff runs for the Super Bowl. Well, these are what teams have a chance of making the Super Bowl, but I don't think they will, or they're a little less likely to. Tier B, divisional round at best. These teams will probably either win the wild card round or they'll be in the divisional round, but they didn't have to play the wild card round. Or might make the playoffs and yet might not. Some of these teams in this tier will make the playoffs and some won't. We'll have to see which ones in the next 4 weeks. Tier D. These are the mid teams. These are the very, very middle of the pack teams that they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to be the ones you have to beat to get into the playoffs. Tier E. Lower mid tiers. These are the bottom of the mids. These teams have no shot at making the playoffs. These teams will maybe be able to play spoiler for a team or two, but other than that, their season's pretty much over. Tier F, top of the bottom. So these are the best of the worst teams. You'll see which teams these are in a minute, but these teams are usually scrappy, but they just can't win games. They're the ones who are going to wind up with like 13 losses. There we go. My math wasn't mathing. Now it is. All right. Tier G. These are just terrible teams. These are the worst the NFL has to offer. These teams are going nowhere and they're going there fast and they're getting that top draft pick. Look into trading with these teams if you're a contender or want to be a contender next season. And then Tier H. Hell, go back to college. This is reserved for one specific team who might as well be playing in the college league right now because they absolutely suck. Okay, let's begin. Starting off with God awful, might as well just go back to college. I was going to go with the Titans, but they can be scrappy from time to time. So instead, we're going to go with the Raiders because the Raiders, yeah, they suck. And Geno Smith, I've been saying it for 3 years. Geno Smith sucks. So, Raiders, take your happy asses back to college. You're the only team that goes there. Now, for the other teams that are actual NFL teams. Starting off with the bottom one, we have the New Orleans Saints. Nah, they're not number 31. That'll have to be reserved for the Titans because the Titans just can't get anything done. They can be scrappy if you kind of don't pay attention to what they're doing, or if you kind of just get lackadaisical because you're underestimating your opponent. The Seahawks kind of did that with the Titans, and so did the Cardinals. They actually beat the Cardinals, but Seahawks still won, even though took their foot off the gas and kind of let the Titans get back into that game at the end. That should have never happened. We're going to go with the Saints. The Saints looked really scrappy at the beginning of the season. They held in there with a lot of good teams. And then they finally, after they played Seattle and got blown out, they kind of just fell apart after that. But I think next year, if they have a good offseason, they could actually move up to the middle of the pack somewhere. But have to see it to believe it. Number 29. It's got to be the Jets. The Jets have surprised a couple of teams this season, but they just can't string together wins when it matters. So I got to give them number 29. Next, I'm going to go with the Falcons. Because even though the Falcons are better on paper, they are going to lose to the team I have ahead of them this Thursday. Every time I've picked the Falcons to win because they're better on paper than the team that they're playing, they have just crapped the bed and lost every single time. So, number 28, F tier, top of the bottom, goes to Falcons. There's a couple more teams going in this section right here. The next one, the Washington Commanders, the ones they're playing on Thursday. On paper, the Commanders are worse than the Falcons. However, something tells me that the Commanders are going to win. It's going to be a close game, but the Commanders are at home. And it's not like the advantages the Falcons have are major. There's a couple advantages in a couple areas. Hold on, let's see if we can go to there. Right here. I got this listed down here. So, yep, you can see that. So, the Buccaneers offense is, or defense is better overall than the offense for the Falcons. So, the Falcons are not going to be able to score very easily. However, the Falcons are a much better passing team than the Buccaneers are passing defense. So if they're going to get anything done, it's going to be that way through the air. Next, rushing. This is really close. They're ranked number 10 and number 8. Number 10 rushing offense for the Falcons, number 8 rushing defense for the Buccaneers. That's really close. That's not a big difference in between, so it's going to be like a stalemate type of situation. So there's that. Scoring offense as opposed to scoring defense. The Falcons and Buccaneers are relatively close in that respect as well, so I don't see a significant difference here. They're still within that margin of error, so there's nothing major there. However, quarterback play, Baker Mayfield is better than the Falcons quarterback. So that's an X factor that you can really factor in there. Okay, so he'll make some things happen. He'll run around a lot, stuff like that. Buccaneers are only favored in like 3 areas. You could say on defense versus total offense, scoring, and QB play. Everything else is pretty much dead even or close to even or advantage Falcons. But the Falcons, I can't bet on them anymore. All right, back to the power rankings. All right, next up, it's got to be the New York Giants because the Giants, if they had their players, if they had Dart, and if they had their running back, they would probably be a much better team. But clearly, those guys are out for the season. So I don't see the Giants doing anything except for being cannon fodder for better teams to buff out their records. All right, finally, moving up, we got the lower mid tier. These teams they have a strength, a significant strength in one area, but that one strength is not enough to get them over the hump. So they're still really bad in one area. And the epitome of that is going to be the Browns. Browns ranked number 25. Their defense is really good, but their offense is atrocious. They can't get anything good going. So they're going to be there. I don't see them getting more than another win or two or another win this season. They might get one more down the stretch, but I don't see it really happening. Number 20 or 25, the Browns. At number 24, the Buccaneers. After a hot start, the Buccaneers have fallen apart. I don't know what it is or what's going on with them, but they managed to beat the Seahawks. Of course, the Seahawks were riddled with injuries in their secondary and on their defensive line. So Baker Mayfield was just able to throw all over the place. Um, and I do see them beating the Falcons, although the Falcons should have the slight advantage overall, but it's got to be the Buccaneers. They got that X factor in the quarterback. So, number 24, the Buccaneers. And rounding out the lower mid tier. And I'm putting this team here because they play really well at home. No, they're going in the next year. So at number 23, we'll go with the Vikings. The Vikings defense is also really good, but their offense, I don't think can contend with upper level teams. So whenever they face a playoff team or a borderline playoff team, they're going to lose. But they're going to beat most of these teams down here any given Sunday. So they're getting there. They're rounding out the E tier, lower mid teams. So number 22 at the bottom of D tier, we're putting the Cardinals. Because the Cardinals are capable of playing really well. And they've hung in there with good teams throughout the year. And I do see them getting one or two more wins this year. I see them finishing 5-12. So they're going to get my nod of approval for mid as fuck not making the playoffs. But they're still a team that can contend with some C tier teams. If they play really well, they can probably beat some C tier teams, but they can't muster anything against a B tier or better. They're going to lose to all those teams. So, number 22, the Cardinals. And right above them, this is actually a difficult one because there's a few teams that could go right above them, but I'm going to go with the Panthers. Now, the Panthers are one of those teams, it's like, what the hell is going on with this team? Because they are capable of beating some good teams, but only at home. On the road, they can't beat anybody pretty much. Like they can beat like these three teams on the road, maybe, but they'd lose to the Jets on the road. I think they already did. And they'd lose to any of these other teams on the road, too. So, Panthers, they're going to play spoiler for a couple of teams down the road, but they get the 21st spot because right now they have some good things going on. But yeah, I don't see them even sniffing the playoffs. Well, they might actually. They might sniff the playoffs because the Buccaneers are so bad, but I can see the Buccaneers beating them and winning out to go to the playoffs. And that's why the Panthers missed the playoffs. Especially if the Buccaneers are getting some players back, they're getting some receivers back. So I expect the Buccaneers to beat the Panthers in the next couple weeks. And that should give the Buccaneers the ah. So see there, I got myself. The Buccaneers are sucking right now, but they could still make the playoffs. But it's not because they're good. They're going to be the worst playoff team out of all the playoffs teams. Unless like they get their shit together and start playing like they were at the beginning of the year, which I don't see happening because they've lost a lot of key players. But for now, damn, they're going to make the playoffs. So what do I do with that? Guess I have to replace them. I got to replace them because they're going to make the playoffs most likely. But they're not really good enough to be in the playoffs. So, all right, they're getting bottom of the C tier. And in their place, the Dolphins. The Dolphins are playing well right now, but I don't believe in them down the stretch. But they have some good points about them. But yeah, I don't think they can beat any of the top teams either. So we'll put them there. So going mid as fuck, not making the playoff. The last team going there is going to be the Ravens. I think it's too little too late for the Ravens. 20, at number 20, the Ravens. They have one of the better quarterbacks, but they're not playing like they have a good quarterback right now, so that doesn't really matter. All right. Next in this tier, Tier C might make the playoffs, but probably not. And I don't think this team is. I think they're missing. So they're going to go there. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. They do have Patrick Mahomes, but if they lose one more game, they're out of the playoffs completely. And they shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl last year. They got a lot of fortunate calls their way from the refs. They're not getting those this year. And they're one loss away from guaranteeing no playoff for them, especially with their division, because their division, they got, what is it? Is it two teams that are significantly better than them? Next up in Tier D, this team is also like good. They're good in some areas, but on their defense, they're atrocious. So I don't see them making the playoffs either. Even though their fans are like, "Oh, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it." No, yeah, Cowboys fans, sorry, you're not making it. You're you're not seeing the playoffs this year either. Don't know when you're gonna next see the playoffs. You got to get a new owner. Jerry Jones is garbage. All right, two more teams in this tier. The Eagles. The Eagles are in a tough division. They're gonna win their division. They only have to win like one more game and they're in. At a 9-4 record, if they go 10 wins, yeah, the Cowboys aren't gonna catch up to them. And there's no other team in their division that's even close. So the Eagles, they lost to the Cowboys. So technically they should be below the Cowboys. However, because they're going to win their division, most likely, because they have the tiebreaker already from week one, even though they split. The best Cowboys can do right now is 10-6-1. And if they win one more game, the Eagles, they're going to be at 10-7. I guess that could happen. But I actually have the Cowboys going 9-7-1 at their best. So the Eagles are going to get to 10 wins. I can see that happening. They got four more games. They're going to win at least one more of them. Against the Commanders, probably two. So they're going to be 11-6, 12-5 going into the playoffs. But their offense is garbage. And their defense isn't that good either. They're middle of the pack on defense. I got them ranked 16th in defense, as you can see right here. Oh, actually, do I have them ranked 18th? Yeah, I actually have them ranked 18th in defense. Defense is falling apart for the Eagles. We'll see if they can get it together for the last 4 weeks. But they got an easy schedule, so I don't see them losing more than two games going down the stretch. So 11-6 minimum record. They're in. But I feel like they shouldn't be. One more team for here. I'm going to go with the Bengals. Now, in order for the Bengals to actually make the playoffs, they have to win out. And I think they need some help, even if they win out. But with Joe Burrow back, they are better than the Eagles, in my opinion. I think they would beat the Eagles right now with how the Eagles are playing. Well, two of these teams are likely making the playoffs because their division is so bad. If not two of them, then the Panthers. So it's either the Panthers or the Buccaneers are going from the NFC South because there's no other competition in that division. So one of them are going, although I don't think either of them deserve to go. And Kansas City is probably missing. So with that, we will move on to the top 14 teams, two of which are going to miss the playoffs because of just how it's shaken out. No, let's just do it smartly and add the other two teams to might miss the playoffs. Okay, so Lions. Lions are a good team, but because of what's going on right now with the Packers and the Bears, they might actually miss the playoffs. Because I do think three teams are going from the NFC West, which is only going to leave two spots available for the NFC North. Probably the Packers and the Bears, honestly, the way it's looking right now. But the Lions have a chance if they beat the Bears, if they're in, if they beat the Bears and if they win three out of the next four, they're going to lose against the Rams most likely. So that's their next one this week. Um, Hopefully they can beat the Rams, but I don't see it happening. As a Seahawks fan, I can't see my division rivals losing to the Lions this year, although I really, really, really hope it happens. So moving on, but the Lions, I can see them sneaking into the seventh seed. I can see it happening. Or maybe they might get the sixth seed if the 49ers fall apart here, which could happen. So, all right, divisional round at best. These teams are going to make the playoffs, but I do not see them getting much beyond the divisional round. They'll probably lose in the divisional round. And these teams are starting with the Steelers because they are kind of in. Even though they're a mid team, they managed to beat the Ravens, which gives them the lead in their division. So they're in. So they could lose the wild card round, but they could win it depending on who they get matched up with. But I'm going to give them the division. I think they're going to get it. I don't know what's going on with the Ravens. They're probably just planning for next year. Um, they still have a chance to win it, but it's between those two right now. We'll see. Next team that's going to win their division, but probably going to be knocked out, is the Jaguars. I can see the Jaguars winning their division, although they have to beat the Texans, which isn't an easy task, but it could happen. I do see the Texans winning that game, though. I just trust their defense more than I trust the Jaguars' defense. But the Jaguars do have a better offense, so we'll see. We'll see how that happens. So I do expect the Jaguars could win, but if they do win their division, they're getting bounced out in the divisional round. If they make a wild card, though, they're going to lose in the wild card round most likely. Next up, we got in their division the Texans. Now, the Texans have the second best defense, actually tied for first best defense with the Seahawks overall, as far as the numbers crunch out. But they have no offense. Their offense is very, very mid. Here, let me show you. As far as the Texans, right here 20th overall offense. That's not going to get you very far in the playoffs, unfortunately. So I do see them, if they make it, they'll win the wild card round if they get matched up with like the Jaguars or the Chargers. But I see them losing to, oh, they might, if they get the Patriots, they might beat the Patriots too. But I don't see them getting much past the divisional round. It could happen, but I would say they're likely to stop there. And the last team for divisional round at best, because every other team has a shot of winning the divisional round. I completely forgot about the Colts. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to bump the Panthers out. We're going to put the Colts right in their place because the Colts, they got an old man Rivers, but that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen a team do in the NFL. This guy is 44 years old and he hasn't played in 5 years. And no quarterback has ever played at 44 years old that I can recall, at least not in the last 60 years. So, yeah, they go there. And I bumped the Panthers up one because that they're on the borderline. Because if the Buccaneers win it, they're in the playoffs. But if the Panthers win against the Buccaneers, they win their division, they're in the playoffs. So that works out perfectly, actually. So the Colts not making the playoffs. The Colts are done. The Colts are going to finish 9-8 at best, and likely 8-9. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams left. Okay, so the other team I can only see getting to the divisional round, the Chargers. There's something about the Chargers that I just don't trust getting ahead of that because all the teams that I'm going to rank above them, I think would beat them 9 times out of 10 with the current setups for each team. So at the very top of tier B, I got the Chargers. If they get a really good matchup in the divisional round, like a really favorable matchup, they could win. But I don't see any of the other good teams in the AFC losing to them. All right. So the teams I have likely to get to the NFC or AFC and NFC championship games. We're going to start with the Bills. I see them possibly getting to the NFC championship, but I can't see them actually winning the championship because they can't pass the ball. They have no passing game. And your running game can only take you so far. You got to at least have a competent passing game. And let me show you and where they rank in passing. I believe passing is the third. Yes, passing. Offense is the second. All right, so we're going to go with that. The Bills are 12th in passing. So, okay. They're not the worst, but out of the teams that are going into the playoffs, yeah, that's not very great. So I do see the Bills. They could win the championship if they get the right matchup, but NFC next. The team I think in the NFC will get to the divisional round, and if they get lucky, they might win the divisional round, is the 49ers. The 49ers, their defense is not good because they lost their two best defensive players early on in the season. If those two guys were there, I would actually have them as one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. But those guys aren't there, so I think they're tier A. They're a really good team. Their offense is going to be one of the best down the stretch in the NFL. However, their defense, they're missing their key guys, so I can't see them winning the NFC championship at all. but there's a possibility, depending on matchups, that they could get there. But other than that, that's where they go. All right. Next team, I believe, belongs in this category. Patriots. And the Patriots are getting the benefit of the doubt right now, actually, because the Patriots haven't played anybody. The only people they played are the bottom of the freaking league. They played the Bills and they beat them, but the Bills were playing like crap at the time. They're wildly inconsistent. And like I said, they can't pass the ball and they can't defend the run either. So if you got a good top 10 run game and you can pass the ball even in the top 15, you're going to run up and down the field on the Bills. If your defense is even top 10, you're beating the Bills. Like, that's just how it goes. Like, if you have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, you're beating the Bills. And on paper, the Patriots do have a top 10 of both. But I think that they would be lower if they had actually had a tough schedule. Number 6, I got the Patriots. Next to them, I have the Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers also have the same thing going on. They've kind of benefited from an easy schedule. And when they've played, and they've lost to bad teams, they tied with the Cowboys. They lost to the Giants, who the Giants aren't the worst. Like when they had Scadaboo and Dart playing, they were actually pretty decent. But they were still a mid-tier team at best. And the Green Bay just got beat by them. So you can't have that happen and make me think you're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I can see Green Bay losing in the wild card round, even honestly. Depends on who they get matched up with if they make it. But right next to them, because there's not a lot of Super Bowl contenders at this point, in my opinion. So at the top of Tier A, we got the Chicago Bears. And the Bears did lose head to head against Green Bay at Green Bay, but that was a close game. That game went down to like the last play of the game, which was a pick six. It was 28-21. It's literally, they were evenly matched. The game in Chicago that they play, I think, in a couple weeks, that's going to determine how equal they are. I think the Bears are going to win that game. And then the Bears win that game, I think they win their division. But I don't see them contending with these top 3 teams. All right, at number 3, the Broncos. The Broncos have the 3rd best defense in the league, and their offense is number 10. So they got the 10th best offense and the 3rd best defense, as you can see from here. The Broncos are 3rd in defense and 10th in offense. That's a team that could win the or make it to the Super Bowl, at least. And I suspect it will be the Broncos because they've played better teams than the Patriots and they've won just as many games. They're the number 1 seed right now in the AFC. I think they're going to keep the number 1 seed. But they're not as good as these other 2 teams. And I've been back and forth on these other 2 teams, trying to decide who is number 1 and who is number 2. On paper, number 1 is Seattle. But in the head to head, Seattle lost by 2 points in LA with a chance to win at the end, kicking a 61-yard field goal that Jason Myers happened to miss. But he can make those kicks, so it's not a guarantee. But Darnold threw 4 picks. If he throws 2 picks or less, Seattle wins that game by at least a touchdown. So there's that. So I am going to put LA at number 2 because Seattle is the better team. Now, LA has the better quarterback and arguably the better coaching staff. So it could be either one of these two teams wins the Super Bowl. At number one, Seattle Seahawks. Unless Darnold melts down every time he faces a tough challenge, I see the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl this year. Now, my two picks are the Super Bowl, or are the Seahawks and the Rams. If the Seahawks don't win, it's going to be the Rams. Because I don't think the AFC is strong enough to beat the NFC this year. And on paper, Seattle's the best team. They got the number one, tied for number one defense, and they're the number four offense. Also, they're like number one or number two special teams. When you have a combination like that, you're almost like a shoe-in to win the Super Bowl. It's just, can the quarterback deal with the pressure and not turn the ball over 4 times when it really counts? So there we go. There's your power rankings for going into week 15. At 32, you got the Raiders. 31, the Titans. 30, the Saints. 29, the Jets. 28, the Falcons. 27, the Commanders. 26, the Giants. 25, the Browns. 24, the Dolphins. 23, the Vikings. 22, Cardinals. 21, Colts. 20, Ravens. 19, Panthers. 18, Buccaneers. 17, Kansas City Chiefs. 16, Dallas Cowgirls. 15, Philadelphia Eagles. 14, Cincinnati Bengals. 13, Detroit Lions. 12, Pittsburgh Steelers. 11, Jaguars. 10, Texans. 9, the Chargers. 8, the Bills. 7, 49ers. 6, Patriots. 5, Green Bay. 4, Chicago. 3, you got the Broncos. 2, you got the Rams. And finally, at number 1, the Seattle Seahawks. And we got a matchup between the top two teams in week 16 in Seattle. That's going to be the game to watch. That could be this year's real Super Bowl. Thank you for watching. If you liked my video, like, comment, subscribe. I would appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Have a great day and go Seahawks.